For decades, people believed jobs disappeared slowly, one profession at a time, one generation at a time. There was time to adjust, time to retrain, time to recover. That belief no longer matches reality. The world has entered a phase where entire categories of work are being redesigned faster than humans can emotionally process. What makes this moment different is not just technology, but speed, scale, and silence. Most job losses do not arrive as announcements. There is no warning letter, no countdown, no dramatic collapse. Jobs disappear quietly, task by task, responsibility by responsibility, until one day a role still exists in name but no longer requires a human presence. This is how work vanishes in the modern world, not suddenly, but invisibly. The next 10 years will not eliminate work entirely. They will eliminate certain types of work that follows predictable patterns, work that relies on repetition, work that can be measured, optimized, and automated. And this shift will not respect education level, job titles, or years of experience. It will respect only efficiency. Many people believe their job is safe because it feels complex. They believe that human judgment, creativity, or communication will protect them. In some cases, they are right. In many cases, they are not. Technology does not need to replicate humans perfectly. It only needs to be good enough to reduce human demand. When demand drops, competition rises. When competition rises, tolerance disappears. This is why job security is no longer about having a job. It is about having leverage. Leverage comes from skills that scale, from judgment that cannot be easily automated, and from adaptability that allows rapid transition when conditions change. Without leverage, employment becomes fragile. Fragile jobs do not survive technological shifts. They are redesigned out of existence. Another uncomfortable truth is that job loss rarely feels dramatic at first. It feels like reduced hours, increased expectations, stagnant wages, or growing pressure to perform more with fewer resources. People interpret these signs as temporary stress rather than structural change. By the time the change becomes obvious, adaptation is already expensive. Automation does not remove humans out of cruelty. It removes them out of efficiency. Businesses do not ask whether a machine is fair. They ask whether it is faster, cheaper, and more reliable. When the answer is yes, the decision is inevitable. This is not a moral argument, it is an economic one. Over the next 10 years, the most vulnerable jobs will not be the lowest paid or the least educated. They will be the most predictable. Predictability is the true risk factor. If your work can be clearly defined, broken into steps, and evaluated objectively, it can be automated or augmented. Once augmented, fewer humans are required. Once fewer humans are required, many humans are displaced. This shift affects not only individuals but entire career paths. What once took decades to become obsolete now happens within a single professional lifetime. A person may train for years only to discover that the role they prepared for no longer exists in its original form. This creates frustration, anger, and denial, but denial does not stop systems from optimizing. The purpose of this video is not to create fear. Fear paralyzes. The purpose is clarity. Clarity allows preparation. Understanding which jobs are vulnerable and why gives individuals the opportunity to reposition before pressure arrives. Preparation made early feels uncomfortable. Preparation made late feels overwhelming. The next 10 years will reward those who understand how work is changing rather than those who cling to how work used to be. Titles will matter less. Capabilities will matter more. Static roles will shrink. Dynamic skill sets will expand. The question is no longer whether jobs will disappear. The question is which ones, and whether you will see it coming in time. This is not a prediction. It is an observation based on patterns already visible. The future of work is not waiting. It is unfolding right now, quietly, relentlessly, and without apology.
For most modern history, jobs disappeared slowly. Change moved at a human pace. New technologies took decades to fully replace old systems, and entire generations had time to adjust. A worker could start a career, build expertise, and retire before their profession fundamentally changed. That era is over. The speed of change has increased beyond human adaptation cycles, and this acceleration is the core reason jobs are disappearing faster than ever before. The first force driving this acceleration is automation at scale. Automation is no longer limited to factories or physical labor. It has moved into offices, screens, and decision-making processes. Software now performs tasks that once required teams of people. It schedules, analyzes, predicts, writes, designs, and optimizes with increasing accuracy. What makes this different from previous technological shifts is that automation is now cheap, fast to deploy, and endlessly scalable. Once a system is built, it can replace thousands of human hours instantly. The second force is artificial intelligence learning faster than humans can train. Humans require years to develop professional competence. AI systems require data and iteration. When an AI improves, every deployment improves simultaneously. A human's growth is individual, and AI's growth is collective. This creates an imbalance where machines progress exponentially while human skill development remains linear. Linear growth cannot compete with exponential systems. Another reason jobs disappear faster is that businesses no longer optimize for employment. They optimize for resilience, efficiency, and margins. In an unstable global environment, organizations prioritize survival. Automation reduces dependency on human variability. It minimizes sick days, turnover, training costs, and errors. From a business perspective, replacing human tasks with systems is not just profitable, it is protective. Once organizations experience this stability, they rarely return to human-heavy models. Remote work and digital infrastructure have also changed labor economics. Companies no longer need to hire locally. They can outsource globally or automate entirely. This increases competition dramatically. When more people compete for the same role, wages stagnate, expectations rise, and tolerance for inefficiency disappears. Jobs become more demanding while offering less security. Many roles do not disappear outright, they become unsustainable for the people performing them. Another acceleration factor is task fragmentation. Jobs are no longer seen as holistic roles, they are broken down into components. Some components are automated, others are outsourced. The remaining tasks are consolidated into fewer positions. This process quietly reduces headcount without triggering alarms. A role still exists, but fewer people are needed to perform it. Over time, this creates job loss without public recognition. Technology also changes customer expectations. Speed becomes normal, availability becomes expected, precision becomes assumed. Businesses that fail to meet these expectations lose relevance. To keep up, organizations automate. This creates a feedback loop. Automation raises expectations. Higher expectations demand more automation. Humans are squeezed out not because they are incapable, but because they cannot match machine-level consistency at scale. Another critical factor is data-driven decision-making. Decisions that once relied on human judgment are increasingly guided by algorithms. Hiring, scheduling, pricing, logistics, and even performance evaluation are automated. When decisions are automated, the need for human intermediaries decreases, middle layers shrink, management structures flatten, entire categories of coordination work disappear. What makes this process especially dangerous is that it feels incremental. There's no single moment when someone says, "Your job is gone forever." Instead, responsibilities are adjusted, tools are introduced to help, efficiency improves, teams shrink, expectations rise. Eventually, the role becomes unsustainable or unnecessary. By the time workers realize what is happening, the system has already adapted without them. Cultural beliefs also slow human response. Many people believe effort guarantees security. They believe loyalty protects them. They believe experience creates immunity. These beliefs were once reasonable. In a system driven by optimization, they are liabilities. Systems do not reward loyalty, they reward output. They do not value experience, they value performance. And performance is increasingly measured by metrics machines excel at. The speed of job loss is not driven by malice, it is driven by incentives. Every organization that automates gains an advantage. That advantage pressures competitors to do the same. This creates an industry-wide race toward efficiency. Individual workers are caught in this race without consent or preparation. The system does not wait for people to be ready, it moves when incentives align. This is why the next 10 years will feel overwhelming to many workers. Change will not slow down, it will accelerate further. Technologies will compound, skills will expire faster, job descriptions will shift continuously, stability will become temporary rather than permanent. Understanding this does not mean giving up, it means recalibrating expectations. The future of work is not about finding a safe job, it is about building adaptive value. Those who recognize this early can reposition gradually. Those who ignore it will be forced to react under pressure. This is why jobs are disappearing faster than ever, not because humans are failing, but because systems are evolving beyond human-centered design. The only question that matters now is not whether this will continue, but how individuals will respond before the pressure becomes unavoidable.
Automation is often misunderstood as a future event, something that will arrive suddenly and disrupt everything at once. In reality, automation has already reshaped work quietly and continuously. It does not announce itself as replacement, it introduces itself as assistance. Tools are marketed as productivity boosters, efficiency enhancers, and support systems. At first, they help humans work faster. Then they reduce the need for humans altogether. Artificial intelligence accelerates this process by removing one of the last barriers to automation, decision-making. In the past, machines could only follow fixed instructions. Today, AI systems learn patterns, adapt to data, and improve with use. This allows automation to move beyond physical tasks into cognitive work. Writing, analysis, design, diagnostics, forecasting, and coordination are no longer exclusively human domains. Once machines enter these spaces, the structure of work changes permanently. The most important shift is not that AI replaces humans directly, but that it changes how work is evaluated. When output can be measured instantly and compared at scale, tolerance for inconsistency disappears. Humans are inconsistent by nature. They get tired, distracted, emotional, and uncertain. Machines do not. As organizations compare human output to automated systems, expectations rise. Humans are pressured to perform at machine-like levels, and when they cannot, replacement becomes justified. Another critical change is the collapse of task ownership. Jobs used to be defined by responsibilities. A person owned a process from start to finish. Automation breaks this continuity. Tasks are separated, optimized, and redistributed. Some parts are automated, others are outsourced. The remaining tasks are concentrated into fewer roles. This leads to job erosion rather than sudden job loss. Roles shrink until they no longer support full employment. AI also removes the advantage of experience faster than ever before. Experience once created intuition and efficiency. Now, AI systems absorb experience from millions of data points simultaneously. What took a human years to learn, a system can approximate in weeks. This does not eliminate experts entirely, but it reduces the number required. A small group of specialists oversees systems that once employed entire departments. The new reality of work is not built around effort, it is built around leverage. Leverage means the ability to produce impact beyond personal time and energy. AI provides leverage to organizations and individuals who understand how to use it. Those who do not become dependent on systems they do not control. This creates a widening gap between those who amplify their output with technology and those whose output is limited by human constraints. Another overlooked consequence of automation is psychological displacement. People do not just lose income when roles disappear, they lose identity, routine, and purpose. Work structures daily life. When automation disrupts these structures, people experience confusion and loss, even if they remain employed. They sense instability. They feel replaceable. This anxiety often manifests as resistance to change rather than preparation for it. Automation also changes how careers progress. Linear advancement becomes rare. There's no predictable ladder when roles continuously evolve. Skills that once guaranteed promotion now require constant updating. People are forced to learn while working, adapt while performing, and reposition while remaining productive. This constant pressure favors those who are comfortable with uncertainty and disadvantages those who rely on stability. Importantly, automation does not eliminate all work, it reallocates value. New roles emerge around system design, oversight, integration, and interpretation, but these roles require different capabilities. They reward abstraction, systems thinking, and adaptability rather than routine execution. The number of these roles is smaller than the number of roles they replace. This imbalance creates competition and anxiety across the workforce. The danger lies in misunderstanding where safety exists. Many people believe creative, analytical, or communication-heavy jobs are immune. In reality, these jobs are being transformed rather than protected. AI does not need to be perfect, it only needs to be sufficient to reduce human demand. Even partial automation can destabilize entire career paths by lowering entry barriers and increasing competition. The new reality of work is not about choosing a safe profession. It is about understanding how automation changes value. Roles that depend on predictability, repetition, and standardized decision-making will continue to shrink. Roles that depend on judgment in ambiguous environments, integration across systems, and accountability for outcomes will persist longer, but even they will evolve. This is why automation feels threatening even to highly skilled workers. It is not replacing everyone at once. It is eroding certainty. It is turning careers into moving targets. Those who recognize this early gain time to adjust. Those who ignore it will be forced to react when options are limited. Automation and AI are not enemies of work. They are accelerators of change. They reveal which forms of work are sustainable and which were protected only by inefficiency. The next 10 years will not be defined by job titles. They will be defined by adaptability. The question is no longer whether machines can do your job, but whether your value can evolve faster than the systems replacing it.
White-collar jobs are disappearing first. For a long time, white-collar jobs were considered safe. Office work was seen as the reward for education, discipline, and patience. These roles were protected from physical automation and seemed immune to technological disruption. That belief is now collapsing faster than most people expected. White-collar work is not disappearing because it lacks value, but because much of it is built on processes that can be standardized, measured, and optimized by software. The first category under pressure is administrative and coordination work. Roles built around scheduling, documentation, reporting, and internal communication are being rapidly automated. What once required entire teams can now be handled by a combination of software tools, AI assistants, and integrated platforms. These systems do not just perform tasks faster, they remove friction entirely. Meetings are reduced, emails are summarized, reports are generated automatically. The human role shrinks until oversight replaces execution. Another vulnerable category is entry-level professional work. Junior analysts, assistants, and associates were traditionally responsible for research, data preparation, basic analysis, and draft creation. These tasks are now among the easiest to automate. AI systems can process large data sets, generate summaries, create presentations, and produce first draft content in seconds. This does not eliminate senior roles immediately, but it removes the pipeline that once trained future experts. Over time, fewer humans enter these professions at all. Middle management is also under silent pressure. Management once existed to coordinate information, monitor performance, and enforce consistency. As data becomes real-time and systems automate evaluation, the need for multiple layers of management decreases. Dashboards replace reports, algorithms flag issues instantly. Decisions move closer to the top or become partially automated. Middle layers shrink not because managers are ineffective, but because the system no longer requires human intermediaries at scale. Another category facing disruption is routine analytical work. Jobs built around predictable analysis, standardized forecasting, and rule-based decision-making are increasingly augmented or replaced by AI models. These systems do not just replicate human analysis, they outperform it in speed and consistency. As organizations grow comfortable relying on automated insights, the number of human analysts required drops significantly. One human may oversee what once required many. Customer-facing white-collar roles are also changing. Support, sales coordination, and service management increasingly rely on AI-driven systems. Automated chat, predictive assistance, and intelligent routing reduce the need for large human teams. While complex cases still require human judgment, the volume of routine interactions handled by humans decreases. This shifts expectations. Remaining roles become more demanding while overall headcount shrinks. One of the most uncomfortable realizations for white-collar workers is that education alone no longer guarantees protection. Degrees signal capability, but systems prioritize performance. When tasks are automated, credentials lose relevance. What matters is not what someone studied, but what value they can create in a changing environment. This creates anxiety among professionals who followed traditional paths believing they were secure. White-collar job loss often feels confusing because it does not arrive as unemployment. It arrives as restructuring, reorganization, or efficiency improvements. Teams are merged, roles are redefined, responsibilities increase. Over time, fewer people are expected to do more work with more tools. Those who cannot adapt feel pressure long before they lose their position. Many exit voluntarily, believing the problem is personal rather than structural. Another reason white-collar jobs disappear quietly is that automation is framed as assistance. Tools are introduced to help workers be more productive. Initially, this feels positive, but productivity gains reduce the number of workers needed. Over time, assistance becomes substitution. By the time the transition is obvious, the system has already adapted around fewer humans. The white-collar jobs that survive longer are not those tied to routine tasks, but those tied to accountability. Roles where humans are responsible for outcomes rather than processes persist longer. Strategy, complex judgment, ethical decision-making, and cross-system integration are harder to automate, but even these roles evolve. They require continuous learning and a willingness to work alongside intelligent systems rather than compete with them. The uncomfortable truth is that many white-collar workers are not being replaced because they are bad at their jobs. They are being replaced because the structure of their jobs was optimized for a slower world. In a fast, data-driven environment, that structure no longer makes sense. Systems change, roles change, expectations change. Those who adapt early can reposition. Those who cling to titles and routines fall behind quietly. This is why the next 10 years will redefine professional work. Office jobs will not disappear overnight, but many will no longer exist in recognizable form. The illusion of safety will fade. What remains valuable will be the ability to learn faster than systems evolve and to operate where automation ends and responsibility begins.
Blue-collar and service jobs were considered protected from automation. The common belief was simple: machines can think, but they cannot move, feel, or interact like humans. This belief created a false sense of security. While white-collar workers feared software, blue-collar workers trusted physical presence. That trust is now being tested. Automation has quietly entered physical workspaces. Warehouses, factories, construction sites, and logistics hubs are being redesigned around machines rather than humans. Robots no longer exist only behind safety cages. They move freely, learn from their environment, and collaborate with minimal human supervision. Tasks once considered too complex for machines are now being broken down, optimized, and automated piece by piece. Manufacturing jobs were the first warning sign. Entire production lines now operate with a fraction of the human workforce they once required. What makes the current shifts different is that automation is no longer limited to repetitive factory work. It is moving into areas that require mobility, coordination, and real-world interaction. Machines can now pick, sort, stack, transport, and assemble with increasing precision. Logistics and delivery work is another area under pressure. Automated warehouses already rely heavily on robotic systems to move goods efficiently. As autonomous vehicles and delivery technologies improve, the number of human drivers required will decrease. This transition will not happen overnight, but it will happen steadily. Fewer drivers will be needed to move the same volume of goods. Competition will increase, margins will shrink, stability will disappear. Retail and service jobs are also changing faster than many expect. Self-checkout systems were only the beginning. AI-powered customer service kiosks, automated food preparation, and intelligent inventory systems are reducing the need for frontline workers. These systems operate continuously, do not call in sick, and do not require training cycles. Businesses adopt them not to eliminate humans entirely, but to reduce dependency. Reduced dependency always leads to reduced employment. One of the most misunderstood aspects of automation in blue-collar work is augmentation. Humans are not always replaced immediately. Instead, machines are introduced to assist. Workers are expected to use tools that increase output. Over time, expectations rise. Fewer workers are needed to achieve the same results. Those who cannot keep up are filtered out. This process feels like performance pressure rather than structural change, which makes it harder to recognize and respond to. Construction and maintenance work are also evolving. Automation in these fields is slower, but not absent. Prefabrication, robotic construction systems, and AI-assisted planning reduce the need for large on-site teams. Machines may not replace every task, but they reduce uncertainty and waste. As systems improve, fewer skilled workers are required to oversee larger projects. The nature of craftsmanship changes from execution to supervision. Service roles that rely heavily on routine interaction are particularly vulnerable. Hospitality, food service, and basic care roles are increasingly supported by automated systems. Ordering, scheduling, payment, and even preparation are being optimized. Humans remain involved where empathy and complex judgment are required, but the volume of human interaction decreases. Remaining roles become more demanding, while overall opportunities shrink. The psychological impact on blue-collar workers is often delayed. Because automation enters gradually, people do not feel threatened until competition intensifies. Hours become inconsistent, wages stagnate, expectations rise. Workers blame economic conditions or management decisions, not realizing that the underlying structure of work has shifted. By the time job security feels fragile, options are limited. The belief that physical work guarantees safety is outdated. Machines do not need to replace every human task to disrupt an entire profession. They only need to reduce human demand enough to destabilize employment. When fewer workers are needed, bargaining power disappears, stability erodes. The job may still exist, but it no longer supports a predictable life. The blue-collar and service jobs that survive longer are those tied to unpredictable environments, complex human interaction, and accountability for outcomes rather than repetition. But even these roles will change. They will require new skills, new tools, and a willingness to adapt continuously. Physical presence alone will not be enough. The next 10 years will challenge the assumption that manual and service work is immune to technological change. Automation is not just coming for screens and offices. It is entering the physical world, quietly, efficiently, and without apology. Those who recognize this early can adjust their trajectory. Those who do not will experience the change as shock rather than transition.
Jobs people think are safe, not because they are future-proof, but because society has emotionally labeled them as essential. These roles are deeply woven into daily life. People see them everywhere. They interact with them regularly. Over time, familiarity creates the illusion of permanence. But history shows that no job is protected by tradition alone. Safety is not determined by how long a role has existed, but by how difficult it is to replace its value. Teaching is often cited as one of the safest professions. Education feels timeless. Humans teaching humans seems irreplaceable, but the structure of teaching is already changing. Information delivery, assessment, and basic instruction are increasingly automated. Online platforms, AI tutors, adaptive learning systems, and recorded content scale knowledge more efficiently than classrooms. This does not eliminate teachers entirely, but it reduces the number required. One educator can now reach thousands. Over time, this changes employment volume, expectations, and job security. Healthcare is another field commonly considered immune. People believe care requires human presence, empathy, and judgment. While this remains partially true, many healthcare tasks are being automated or augmented. Diagnostics, imaging analysis, scheduling, monitoring, and documentation are increasingly handled by AI systems. This does not remove doctors and nurses, but it shifts their role. Fewer professionals oversee more automated processes. As efficiency increases, demand for certain roles decreases, especially those focused on routine care rather than complex decision-making. Legal and compliance roles also feel protected. Law is complex, language-heavy, and context-driven. Yet much of legal work involves pattern recognition, document review, contract analysis, and precedent matching. These tasks are already being automated. AI systems can scan thousands of documents, flag risks, and generate drafts faster than humans. Senior judgment remains important, but the number of junior and mid-level roles required is shrinking. The profession becomes top-heavy, with fewer entry points. Accounting and finance are similarly misunderstood. People assume numbers require human oversight, but standardized reporting, auditing, and compliance tasks are highly automatable. AI systems excel at detecting anomalies, tracking transactions, and applying rules consistently. Human professionals still exist, but their role shifts toward interpretation and strategy. The volume of routine accounting work declines, reducing employment opportunities even as the profession appears stable from the outside. Creative jobs are often assumed to be safe because creativity feels uniquely human. Writing, design, music, and art were once thought immune to automation. Today, AI systems generate content at scale. They do not replace all creative professionals, but they change the economics. When content becomes abundant, value shifts. The market rewards originality, direction, and taste rather than execution alone. Many creative roles shrink or become freelance, unstable, and highly competitive. Even roles built around communication and coordination are under pressure. Project management, operations coordination, and planning roles are increasingly supported by automated systems. AI tools track progress, allocate resources, and identify bottlenecks. Human oversight remains, but fewer people are needed. The role changes from managing tasks to managing systems. Those who cannot make this transition become redundant. One reason these jobs feel safe is because change arrives gradually. Titles remain, institutions persist, people continue working, unaware that the structure beneath them is shifting. Automation does not remove these professions outright, it thins them, it raises expectations, it reduces entry points. Over time, what once supported many careers supports only a few. Another reason for false security is social validation. Jobs tied to respect, authority, or service are emotionally protected. Society wants to believe they will always exist, but systems do not operate on respect, they operate on efficiency. When technology can deliver the same outcome with fewer humans, the system adapts regardless of emotional attachment. The most dangerous assumption is believing that being important guarantees safety. Importance does not equal irreplaceability. Many essential functions are already automated. Water systems, power grids, logistics networks, and communication infrastructures run largely without human intervention. Humans oversee them, but at a distance. The same pattern applies to professions. Oversight remains, execution shrinks. The jobs that truly survive longer are not defined by title, but by responsibility. Roles where humans are accountable for outcomes, ethics, and judgment persist longer. But even these roles evolve. They require continuous learning and the ability to work alongside intelligent systems rather than compete with them. The lesson of the next 10 years is not that all jobs disappear, it is that no job remains unchanged. Safety does not come from tradition, education, or social importance. It comes from adaptability. Those who understand this can reposition early. Those who rely on assumptions will experience the future as shock rather than transition.
The psychological impact of job loss and uncertainty. When jobs disappear, the first thing people notice is financial pressure. Bills become stressful. Stability feels fragile. But the deeper damage happens quietly, inside the mind. Work is not just a source of income. It is a source of identity, structure, and meaning. When that structure begins to collapse, people experience more than economic loss. They experience psychological disorientation. For many individuals, work answers a simple question: who am I in the world? A job provides routine, social validation, and a sense of progress. When that job becomes unstable or disappears, the individual does not only lose a paycheck, they lose a narrative. Without that narrative, time feels unstructured, effort feels directionless, and self-worth becomes uncertain. This loss is difficult to articulate, which is why it is often misunderstood or ignored. Uncertainty amplifies this effect. Humans can endure hardship when they understand its duration. They can tolerate difficulty when they see a clear path forward. What they struggle with most is not knowing. In a rapidly changing job market, uncertainty becomes constant. People do not know which skills will matter, which paths will survive, or whether their efforts will pay off. This uncertainty creates chronic stress rather than temporary discomfort. One common psychological response is denial. People convince themselves that disruption will not affect them personally. They dismiss warning signs as temporary trends or exaggerated fears. Denial provides short-term emotional relief, but it delays preparation. When reality eventually forces adjustment, the shock is stronger because the mind was not prepared for change. Another response is anxiety-driven overwork. Some people respond to uncertainty by working harder at the same tasks, believing effort alone will protect them. They increase hours, sacrifice rest, and push themselves toward burnout. But effort without strategic adaptation often accelerates exhaustion without improving security. When the system changes, burnout does not provide protection. Comparison also intensifies psychological strain. As people observe others adapting faster, earning more, or transitioning successfully, they feel inadequate or left behind. Social media magnifies this effect by presenting curated success stories without context. People compare their internal confusion to others' external confidence. This comparison distorts perception and undermines motivation. Long-term uncertainty can also lead to disengagement. When people feel powerless to influence outcomes, they reduce effort, they detach emotionally from work and from planning for the future. This detachment is often misinterpreted as laziness. In reality, it is a protective response to prolonged stress. Unfortunately, disengagement further reduces adaptability, creating a cycle that is difficult to escape. Job insecurity also affects decision-making. Fear narrows focus. People become risk-averse when adaptability requires experimentation. They cling to familiar roles even when those roles are declining. They delay retraining because uncertainty makes commitment feel dangerous. This hesitation is understandable but costly. In fast-changing environments, delayed decisions often become forced decisions. Another overlooked effect is the erosion of confidence. When systems change rapidly, even capable individuals begin to doubt their value. They question whether their skills still matter. This doubt reduces initiative and willingness to explore new paths. Confidence does not disappear because people are incapable. It disappears because feedback becomes inconsistent and unpredictable. The psychological impact of job disruption is not evenly distributed. Those with strong support systems, flexible identities, and a history of adaptation recover faster. Those whose identity is tightly bound to a single role experience deeper distress. This is why adaptability is not just a professional skill, it is a psychological one. The future of work demands mental resilience, not blind optimism, but emotional regulation, the ability to experience uncertainty without paralysis, the ability to feel fear without surrendering agency. Resilience does not eliminate stress, it allows people to function despite it. Understanding these psychological effects is critical because preparation is not only technical. Learning new skills is necessary, but insufficient if the mind cannot tolerate uncertainty. The next 10 years will test not just what people know, but how they respond internally to change. Those who acknowledge the psychological impact early can build coping strategies, support networks, and adaptive habits before crisis arrives. Those who ignore it will experience disruption as personal failure rather than structural transformation. This is why conversations about jobs must go beyond economics. They must include identity, purpose, and mental health. Because the most difficult part of losing a job is not the loss itself, it is the feeling of not knowing where you belong afterward.
When people ask which jobs will survive the next 10 years, they are often asking the wrong question. Jobs are not the unit of survival anymore. Skills are. Roles will continue to change, merge, disappear, and reappear under new names. What determines whether someone survives these changes is not their job title, but their capacity to remain valuable as systems evolve. The skills that survive are not the most technical or the most impressive, they are the most transferable. Skills that can move across tools, industries, and environments last longer than those tied to a single system. The future rewards people who can learn quickly, unlearn outdated methods, and relearn without emotional resistance. Learning itself becomes the core skill. One of the most important survival skills is systems thinking. This is the ability to understand how parts connect, how incentives shape behavior, and how changes in one area affect outcomes elsewhere. Systems thinkers are not easily replaced because they operate above individual tasks. They design, integrate, and oversee processes rather than execute repetitive steps. As automation increases, execution becomes cheap. Understanding becomes rare. Another critical skill is judgment under uncertainty. Machines excel at optimization when rules are clear. Humans remain valuable where ambiguity exists. Ethical decisions, prioritization under conflicting goals, and accountability for outcomes require human judgment. These skills are not learned through memorization. They are developed through experience, reflection, and exposure to complexity. People who cultivate judgment remain relevant even as tools change. Communication also evolves rather than disappears. Basic communication is automated. Persuasion, clarity, and explanation are not. The ability to translate complex ideas into understandable language becomes increasingly valuable. In a world filled with systems people do not understand, those who can explain become trusted. This applies across fields: technology, business, healthcare, education, and governance. Adaptability itself is a skill that can be trained. It involves emotional regulation, openness to feedback, and the willingness to experiment. Adaptable individuals do not wait for perfect information. They take small, reversible steps and adjust quickly. They treat change as a constant rather than a disruption. This mindset reduces fear and increases agency. Preparation for the future does not require predicting exact outcomes. It requires positioning. Positioning yourself where learning opportunities exist. Positioning yourself where skills compound rather than expire. Positioning yourself close to systems rather than at their edges. People who work near decision-making, integration, and oversight have more options than those performing isolated tasks. Another element of preparation is reducing fragility. Fragility comes from dependence on a single income source, a single identity, or a single skill. The future rewards diversification, multiple competencies, multiple ways to create value. This does not mean doing everything at once. It means building optionality over time so that when one path narrows, another remains open. It is also important to recognize that preparation is uncomfortable. Learning feels slow, starting over feels humiliating, letting go of familiar identities feels painful. But discomfort is temporary, irrelevance is not. Those who accept short-term discomfort to build long-term resilience gain an advantage that compounds quietly. This is where Future Shock fits into the picture. This channel exists to help you think long-term in a short-term world, to understand how work, power, technology, and human value are changing beneath the surface. Not through panic, not through hype, but through clarity. Awareness is the first layer of preparation. Without it, no strategy works. If you have watched this far, it means you are not looking for comfort, you are looking for understanding. That already sets you apart. Most people will ignore these shifts until they are forced to respond. By then, options will be limited. Preparation done early feels optional. Preparation done late feels mandatory. The next 10 years will not be easy, but they are not hopeless. They will be unforgiving to those who refuse to adapt and rewarding to those who do. The future does not belong to machines alone. It belongs to humans who learn how to work with them, around them, and beyond them. This is not the end of the conversation. It is the beginning of a different way of thinking about work, identity, and survival. Future Shock will continue exploring these changes, one layer at a time. If you want to stay ahead rather than catch up, subscribe to Future Shock. Not because it feels good, but because understanding the future has never mattered more. The future is already here. The only question is whether you will meet it prepared. This is Future Shock.